Humans are intelligent, supposedly. We've built civilizations, split the atom, and reached the moon. But history is also a chaotic graveyard of moments where people made decisions so ridiculous they almost sound like bad internet creepypasta. Let's look at some of the weirdest things we actually did. Radioactive toothpaste. Right after radiation was discovered, the world went through a glow-up phase, literally. Because it was new and powerful, companies marketed radium as a miracle cure-all. They sold radioactive toothpaste, like Doramad, claiming it would strengthen your gums and give you a radiant smile. There were even radioactive water crocs and face creams. Humanity basically looked at glowing, DNA-shredding chemicals and said, "This belongs on my toothbrush." The London beer flood. In 1814, London witnessed one of history's most intoxicated disasters. A massive 22-foot-tall wooden vat at the Mew & Co. brewery burst, triggering a domino effect that shattered other tanks. A tidal wave of over 320,000 gallons of fermenting beer surged through the streets of St. Giles. It demolished 2 houses and killed 8 people. Imagine being the person trying to explain to the insurance company that your house was taken out by a literal tsunami of porter. The poisonous tomato myth. For nearly 200 years, Europeans were terrified of tomatoes, calling them poison apples. The irony. The tomatoes were innocent. Wealthy aristocrats ate off pewter plates, which had a high lead content. The acidity of the tomatoes leached the lead out of the plates, causing lead poisoning. Instead of blaming their expensive dinnerware, they blamed the fruit. It took the invention of pizza in Italy for the world to finally realize we were missing out on the greatest snack in history. The Great Emu War. In 1932, the Australian military declared war on birds. 20,000 emus were migrating and destroying wheat crops, so the government sent soldiers armed with Lewis machine guns. You'd think humans with heavy artillery would win, but the emus used guerrilla tactics, splitting into small groups and outrunning the bullets. After thousands of rounds were fired with very few casualties, the military retreated. The emus literally won a war against a sovereign nation. The Eiffel Tower scam. Victor Lustig is the king of audacity. In 1925, he read a newspaper article about the Eiffel Tower being expensive to maintain. He forged government documents and convinced a group of scrap metal dealers that the city was selling the tower for parts. He actually managed to get a bribe and a full payment from a nervous dealer named Andre Poisson. The best part, Lustig was so successful, he tried to sell it a second time a month later. Smoking for health. There was a time when your doctor wouldn't tell you to quit smoking, they'd tell you which brand to buy. In the mid-20th century, tobacco companies paid doctors to appear in ads, using slogans like, "More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette." They marketed cigarettes as a way to soothe throat irritation and even aid digestion. We spent decades advertising lung damage as a wellness trend. The dancing plague. In 1518, a woman named Frau Trophia stepped into a street in Strasbourg and started dancing. She didn't stop for 6 days. Within a month, 400 people had joined her in a frantic, silent disco. There was no music, just people dancing until their feet bled or they collapsed from heart attacks. To this day, historians aren't sure if it was mass hysteria or ergot poisoning from moldy bread, but it remains history's most terrifying flash mob. Animals on trial. In the Middle Ages, the law applied to everyone, including livestock. If a pig injured someone or a swarm of rats ate the local grain, they were given a lawyer and an actual court date. There are records of weevils being excommunicated by the church and pigs being dressed in human clothes before being executed for crimes. History was somehow much stranger and much more litigious than fiction. Mailing your children. When the U.S. parcel post launched in 1913, the rules on what you could ship were a bit blurry. Seeing that stamps were cheaper than a train ticket, a few clever parents literally mailed their children to grandma's house. One couple paid 15 cents in stamps to ship their son to his grandmother a few miles away. The mail carriers actually looked after them, and they weren't put in boxes, but they were technically packages. The Postmaster General eventually had to step in and say, "Please stop mailing humans." The Lightning Man. Roy Sullivan was a park ranger who became a literal human lightning rod. Between 1942 and 1977, Roy was struck by lightning 7 different times. He lost toenails, had his eyebrows singed off, and his hair set on fire twice. He survived every single strike. At that point, you have to wonder if Roy was the unluckiest man on Earth, or if the sky genuinely had a personal vendetta against him. Light treatment. For centuries, bloodletting was the gold standard of medicine. Doctors believed illness was caused by having too much blood, so they used leeches to suck the sickness out. At the height of the craze in the 1830s, France alone imported 40 million leeches a year for medical use. Whether you had a headache or a broken leg, the answer was almost always put a slimy worm on it. Modern medicine has come a long way. The acoustic kitty. During the Cold War, the CIA spent $20 million on Project Acoustic Kitty. They surgically implanted a microphone in a cat's ear and a radio transmitter at the base of its skull, hoping it could eavesdrop on Soviet officials. On its first field test, they released the cat near a park bench, and it was immediately hit by a taxi. The project was scrapped because, as it turns out, cats are physically incapable of following government orders. The pineapple status symbol. In the 1700s, a single pineapple could cost the equivalent of $8,000 today. They were so rare and exotic that they became the ultimate status symbol. People didn't even eat them. They would carry them under their arms at parties or rent them for the night just to place them on their dining table to look rich. You knew you had made it when you could afford to let a tropical fruit rot in your living room just for the clout. Human alarm clocks. Before the Industrial Revolution made mechanical alarms cheap, people relied on knocker-uppers. These were professionals who were paid a few pence a week to wake workers up for their shifts. They would use long bamboo poles to tap on second-story windows or pea shooters to pelt glass with dried peas. It raises the ultimate question: who was responsible for waking up the person who wakes up the knocker-upper? Human history is a beautiful, chaotic mess that is honestly more ridiculous than fiction. We've come a long way, but looking back, it's a miracle we made it this far at all. If you enjoyed this trip through the weirdest parts of our past, hit that follow button for more. See you in the next one.